Good morning and welcome back to AM Joy. This morning at Wembley Stadium in London, the New Orleans Saints collectively took a knee before the national anthem ahead of their game against the Miami Dolphins. 3 Miami Dolphins players also kneeled. Taking a knee reached a flashpoint last weekend. But the story of how the national anthem came to be a staple in American sports goes back much further. In 1814, Francis Scott Key penned the lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner after witnessing the American flag still flying over Fort McHenry during the War of 1812. And almost 100 years after that battle, President Woodrow Wilson declared the song the national anthem by executive order, after his daughter, Margaret Woodrow Wilson, recorded a popular rendition of the military ditty in 1915, cracking the top 10 in sheet music sales. That's what you're hearing right now. 3 years later, during Game 1 of the 1918 World Series, the Boston Red Sox faced the Chicago Cubs against a backdrop of war. At that point, more than 100,000 American soldiers had died in World War I. Major league players were being drafted, and Americans in and outside the ballpark were weary and anxious. During the 7th inning stretch, the band struck up the Star-Spangled Banner, and Red Sox third baseman Fred Thomas, on leave from the Navy, turned toward the flag and gave a military salute. The New York Times reported that the crowd sang along, ending the melody with thunderous applause. Babe Ruth pitched a shutout that day, and the tradition of playing the anthem at games was born. Though Congress wouldn't pass a law making the Star-Spangled Banner the official national anthem until 1931. Today, it's the NFL's turn to use the anthem to stir up patriotic fervor in fans, while the President of the United States has decided to make it all about him. And joining me now is Martin Lewis, producer and columnist. What do you make of this whole debate?
The whole thing is really perplexing. You know, there are 193 nations on this planet, and citizens of those nations all are proud of their country. They're proud of their flag. They're proud of their national anthem. However, practically alone amongst developed democracies, America is the only place where they use the national anthem every week, every day practically, for sporting events. It's like a supercharged patriotism, as though if you don't salute the flag and the anthem, there's something wrong. You're not supporting America. This is kind of crazy. So it goes back to then. There's also some appreciation of the irony. A lot of people say Americans don't do irony. Nonsense. The melody of the Star-Spangled Banner was written by a British guy in circa 1776. Right. And it's a drinking song a song about womanizing. There's even a reference in the third verse to the yellow-haired god and his 9 fusty maids. Now, according to what our current president, the yellow-haired god, told to Howard Stern and Access Hollywood, it was more like 900 fusty maids. Put that to one side. The lyrics were written by a gentleman who was a slave owner, and his version of a solution to the problem of there being blacks in America was mass deportation to Africa. So is it really appropriate that this song, which was only turned into the national anthem by congressional order in 1931, is our national anthem? Perhaps it should be America the Beautiful, or This Land is Your Land. These are beautiful songs. Is it written in stone that we cannot change the national anthem? And last but not least, the third verse of the Star-Spangled Banner, which is not often sung, the third verse has appalling references to slaves. And it's just disgusting. So maybe we should consider whether this is an appropriate anthem.
And Martin, you know, it's just difficult to sort of unpack sort of what all this means for everyone else. But do you think that we might be going back to an age when, without the President of the United States sort of being able to exhibit that kind of moral leadership, are we now starting to see the resumption of athletes as sort of moral leaders?
Well, certainly one thing that I find admirable is that when sports players are actually doing something that's not for their own personal benefit, none of the players who have taken the knee are doing it for their financial benefit. It's not, say, like a politician who might propose a tax reform that would give $750 million benefit to his family. It's not for personal gain. It's because they have honor. And I'm reminded of this thing. When they keep invoking the flag flag and the national anthem is to understand that the flag and the national anthem are not the things themselves. They are emblems, they're symbols. And I'm reminded of a great line in that movie, A Few Good Men, where a Marine has been dishonorably discharged and he's very despondent. And the Tom Cruise character says, "You don't need to wear a patch on your arm to have honor. You don't need to sing a song or salute a flag to have honor." And those who are saluting in their own way the fight for racial justice, for civil rights, those are core American values, and the First Amendment gives them that. So I think it's disgusting that you have this sense of division that prevents people or attacks people for doing what I think is patriotic. Indeed, to attack them is in itself un-American.
Well said. We're going to leave it right there. Thank you very much, Martin Lewis.